We have Joshua Condado from the Investing RN podcast and the Lifestyle CRNA. So, Josh, tell us how you got into nursing, and we'll just go from there.
Sure. It's kind of a boring story, but I come from a family of just nurses. Like my dad's my dad's a CRNA as well. I got some uncles that are both nurses, nurse practitioners. My sister's a nurse. My mom was in nursing school for a little bit. It's kind of a boring path. I didn't know what else to do. It was at one point I wanted to be a pastor, wanted to be a engineer, wanted to be a commercial flight pilot, but everybody else around me was a nurse. So I was like, oh, I guess I'll just be a nurse also.
Yeah, so that's like a similar background. Everyone in my family is nurses, but no one with like a master's other than my brother. So what made you go the CRNA route other than your dad being a CRNA?
That was pretty much it. I mean, growing up, like, I don't think I ever heard him complaining about his job. And so, like, when I got older, I had just associated it with good things, I guess. Obviously, I looked at what the salary was going to be when I finished, and I was very comfortable with that, I guess. I don't know. Like, a lot of people, I get people asking me all the time, like, what are some of the advantages? I know a lot of people say don't look at the money, but I don't know. I'm trying to make as much as I can while
It's hard
working
not
the
to look
least
at the
amount.
money.
Yeah, like I can work like I don't have to work that much anymore. Like right now I have a contract that's 26 weeks and my goal is not to work.
Oh, you're doing locums or just like travel?
It's pretty much like I have a I'm actually gonna move this. Sorry. That's bothering me. It's like right on the top of my head. Yeah, so I have a contract. I like subcontract. It's not officially locums, but essentially it kind of is. But I have a 26-week contract with a hospital, and then the last couple years I've gone and worked to like other areas as locums. But this year I'm trying not to do any of that. I'm trying.
So is that 1099 work?
It is. Yeah.
Oh, so you get even more write-offs if you
I write off so many things.
Yeah, we'll go into that because I love hearing about that. I just did my taxes yesterday with my accountant, and I am very, very happy.
Nice.
But so let's backtrack. How did you get to becoming a CRNA? Like, what was the path for you?
Yeah. So I don't want to call myself lucky because I was pretty intentional about what I did, but I mean I can lay it out for you. Like the fastest way to become a CRNA, and I basically did that. It helps that my dad was a CRNA because I knew about it. A lot of the people that I graduated with in my class was about 30 people. I went to school in Florida, and half of them were like, I didn't even know about what a CRNA was until I was like 30 something, and then they had to go back to school. But I knew exactly what I had to do. So while I was in college, as a sophomore, so I'm taking fundamentals or whatever, I got a job in the ICU as a nurse tech. So my first path was an associate's degree. So as soon as I graduated with my associate's degree, I was able to work as a general, whatever you're called when you haven't passed boards yet, but you can still work. I don't know.
I forgot, but
Tennessee, Tennessee allowed this at the time. So the day after I graduated, I graduated on a Sunday. Monday, I was working my first shift in the ICU as a nurse. And so
they allowed you right out of school to be a nurse in the ICU.
Yeah. Well, and I was a nurse tech in that same ICU.
Oh, so that's why they already knew you.
So that's why, and I did a good job. Like I'm not terrible. so that got my foot
not lazy.
Right. No, I'm a little bit Mexican. So so that got my foot into the door of the ICU, which is, you're required to have one is the minimum amount. Obviously, like it's competitive. Certain schools are just gonna not accept that little because it's competitive. But so then while I was finishing my bachelor's, I was getting my required ICU experience. So by the time I finished my bachelor's, I had a year and a half of ICU experience, and I immediately started applying to CRNA schools. And there used to be, I haven't checked because I have no need to now, but there used to be a website where there was like rolling application deadlines to CRNA schools.
Oh, shoot.
And I would just go to that website. I would see an application deadline coming up. I would apply to it. Then I would just go down the list. And I ended up applying to probably 10 schools. There used to be over 100 CRNA schools in the US. I applied to 10 of them. I got 2 interviews. and I got accepted to the first one that I applied to, and
And did
it
you
was
go to
not.
the first one you got into?
I did, yeah, and it was not my first choice, but there was no possible way I was going to turn
Oh, right.
acceptance down to get into the school I wanted to go to.
Oh, yeah, for
So
sure. That's what I hear. Some of my friends that are applied or are applying to schools are like, it doesn't matter which school is accepting me. I'm going to
mhm,
the first one that does because
absolutely,
I'm not going to wait for all these other ones to get back to me. If I hear a yes, I'm going. Like,
that's it,
let's
yeah.
just
And
start.
the school I went to is in Florida, and like I said, there's like over 100 schools. Like there's a website that like ranked them all. The school I went to was the lowest. It was like unranked. And, like, I don't know, was part of me nervous about that? I don't know. I don't know if I was ever, like, nervous about it, but, like, honestly, after graduating and after talking to a lot of my friends that got experience at different schools, I feel like I was actually better prepared than a lot of the, like, high-ranked schools.
Oh,
So,
I
I don't
believe
know.
that.
I think rankings is based on research, not on, like, actual clinical experience and preparation. I don't know. Anyway, I felt very prepared, so I don't know, disregard all of that nonsense.
No, I believe that because like even just for like nursing school, since I'm in New York and the New York City area, they don't let like regular nurses, BSNs or whatever, actually do patient care here in the city. So pretty much you're just like a shadow the whole time. But when I went to Buffalo for school, um, they treated you like you were a nurse when you're doing your clinical. And well, I don't know if that's the case now, but you could do everything, the blood draws, the IVs, everything. So I got like a lot of hands-on experience. But when I heard from like my friends that went to Columbia, NYU, all these big name schools that did nursing, which always blows my mind. Because we could go into that in a little bit. But when they came out of their clinical experience, they were just like, I can't do shit. I'm just smart as fuck. But
Yeah.
like, like I have no idea what to do when I'm at work. But then
That's
here I am putting in IVs and knowing how to even like do Foley's, doing whatever you wanted to do, any kind of invasive kind of thing that a nurse can do. I probably did it in clinical and I just needed a refresher on how to do it in the hospital, their
mhm.
protocol, and I could do it. Whereas all these people that went to these big name schools were just like, I
That's
don't know how
kinda
to do anything. Let me just sit here kind of thing.
that's kinda scary.
Oh yeah.
You're not able to do anything in nursing school? Like, how are you supposed to
Yeah.
learn?
That's the thing.
That's
Like
oh,
it's
crazy.
wild. Like that's why like I'll
Wow.
always be one of those people that also when it comes down to like nursing school, like well, first, like let's go into that first. So the experience is probably way different and you don't know what you're going to get because I always told like my preceptees or my orientees or whatever, um, I don't care how many times you took your NCLEX. I don't care what your
Yeah.
grades were. Most likely, I always said like the better nurse, and I'm sorry if I offend anyone in this, is probably going to be the one that went to not the highest rated school, but the one that just took advantage of their clinical experience and was able to like do shit. Because I don't care how smart you are, because at the end of the day, it is like we're doing a lot of like laboring. And if you don't know how to work, you're not gonna do too well.
Yeah. I agree 100%. And honestly, like, it's the same in the anesthesia school. Like, there's a lot of really smart people that don't get the same, experience because they're not as proactive. Like, it's the students that, I don't know, that put a lot more time into actually finding good clinical rotations or whatever.
So
There's a
so
lot of
was
people that complain for no
oh
reason,
yeah,
is what we're trying to
for
say.
sure. Yeah, for sure. And then okay, we'll go into a little bit of money because I know you a money guy too, and I love geeking out on this stuff. But so for nursing school, you went the associate's route, so that shouldn't be that expensive.
Mhm,
And then you end up going to the bachelor route.
mhm.
Do you, as someone that is more financially literate, see a reason why nurses should go to very high end schools to get the same degree as someone that goes to like a state school, you know?
Absolutely not. It's yeah, I found my wife in college, so I guess
Mhm.
that would be a good reason if you're looking for a spouse. Aside financially, it was a crazy mistake. Like, I went to a private school, so a private college,
Mhm.
and so my tuition was like, I don't remember, like 12 grand a semester or something like that.
Was this the
Whereas
bachelorette or the associates?
both, I went to the
Oh,
same
dang.
school.
Okay.
Yeah, mistake. Yeah, I would not do that again. I would go to some like state school, like one of these community colleges, and
Mhm.
pay like a couple $100 of credit and get my nursing degree there. Because like honestly, none of the hospitals ask you where you graduated from. They
Exactly.
just want to know that you passed the NCLEX.
Mhm. And that's huge. So for the CRNA school, th
Mhm.
you touched on it a little bit. So you had to choose your own clinical rotations?
I had the opportunity to, and I guess kind of what I was alluding to is there was one specific clinical site that I guess I refer to when I'm talking about this stuff with people.
Mhm.
It was a site that almost all of my classmates hated because they were asked to do a lot of stuff there, and I loved it because I took it as an opportunity to do stuff, and they viewed it as, "Oh, you're making me do a lot." Um, Whereas my skills, like my hands, like I might not be the smartest person up here, but I don't really care. Like I'm really good with my skills and everything that I do with my hands. Whatever you IVs, central lines, intubating people, like I'm really good with all of that stuff. And it's because I did it. I probably did like double or triple the amount that all my other classmates did because I was very proactive on finding stuff, finding opportunities.
That's yeah, and that's huge. Like what we talked about with the clinical experience is that you probably were thrown into that fire
Yeah.
and you took it with stride and you're like, "Damn, I'm getting a lot of experience." And like I see how they treat SRNA students even where I work. Like
Mhm.
they give them like one shadow day and then y-
Yeah, it's
do it.
terrible.
Do everything. Let's see what you got, kind of thing. And then I see the CRNA chilling behind the computer. There's like just like looking really quick and be like, "You good?"
Yeah,
But
you still
like
alive? Alright,
yeah,
cool.
like just make sure all the numbers look good. But that's like great training at the same time. Thrown right into the fire, and then at least you have the CRNA actually there with you. And I'm assuming that you're also working under an attending. So if anything really bad happened, you could also
Mhm.
call in backup too.
Yes. So, I was gonna say something, but before I do that, I was gonna touch on the attending situation. So there's a lot of states where you don't have to work under an
No,
attending.
shoot.
Yeah. So Wisconsin is one of those states. So the hospital I currently work in now, it's a small, tiny critical access hospital. There's two operating rooms. It's like a 17 bed hospital out in the middle of nowhere. So I work alone there. Like I'm the only anesthesia provider there every day doing surgeries.
Oh,
A lot
dang.
of the smaller hospitals in rural America, not just Wisconsin, are the same. Like it's staffed by CRNAs, and there's the closest physician anesthesiologist is like several hours away.
Oh,
So
dang.
it's state specific, but it's it's kind of a misconception. Like a lot of people don't realize that CRNAs can practice completely independently without physician supervision.
Yeah, like I've heard of it. I've read a few articles on it, but I guess just since I'm in New York, where it's very physician,
New York might be one of the ones where it's required. I
yeah,
don't.
where it's
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of pushback even with like nurse practitioners even getting their own practice as well here, where I know like everywhere in the Midwest, yeah, Midwest, there's like a lot of GPs are now nurse practitioners. So I guess that's pretty cool. So that's in you being the only anesthesia provider in that area, does that mean since you're also like 1099 work, you could negotiate a very nice salary?
I Yeah, yeah, I guess so. It's all relative, but yeah, compared to what I made when I first came out of school, yeah, I was able to negotiate pretty well. Are
I
you
don't
gonna
know.
ask? Are
Do
you
you
gonna ask?
mind?
No, I'm just kidding.
How
Yeah,
high
that's
can you
cool.
give me a range?
Okay. So as a 1099, I have I can I can make a ton of money. I have a family, I have 3 kids, so I choose to be home with them a little bit also, but
Mhm,
it doesn't stop me from picking up and making some pretty good money. So I mentioned I work 26 weeks in the small hospital,
mhm.
and I share the position with one other provider. So I'm there for 2 weeks, and then I'm off for 2 weeks, and he's there for 2 weeks. So for that hospital, I'm gonna make 265 this year,
Oh,
working
nice.
working 26 weeks.
That's crazy because well, obviously you're in the Midwest and I know the CRNA pay in New York City starts at 235. and you're making more than that for half the year. And I'm assuming, even though you're covering like the whole hospital, but it's not a big hospital, I'm assuming your workload isn't as daunting and crazy as some of these CRNAs that I'm working with that are here these like 12-hour days and doing everything under
Oh
the
yeah.
sun as a anesthesia provider.
You are completely accurate. It's so
Jeez.
these critical access hospitals, it's the secret sauce. Like for
Mhm,
me, I worked in some of the bigger hospitals, and right out of school is actually important to me to do large
mhm.
surgeries. Like I want to do open heart surgeries, big back cranies. Like I wanted to do all those. And then I did them for like a year, and I'm like, honestly, this is not that great, and I can go work way less and make way more money. So it's kind of a no brainer. The only hiccup is with these smaller hospitals, there's a ton of like overnight call that you have to do.
Mm.
So a lot of people can't really just they can't wrap their head around being on call 24/7 for 2 weeks straight. But in my mind, I'm like, I'm getting paid to sleep. Like the amount of times I get called in the middle of the night is like once every couple weeks at most.
Wow.
So it's really not that much. And then I staff the surgeries, and if they add surgeries, then I just have to be there for them. But there's not a huge caseload of surgeries either. Like if I'm probably actually in the hospital, maybe 25 to 30 hours per week on average.
Dude, that's amazing. And are you specifically only doing surgeries, like, you're not called for intubating, like, RRTs and all that stuff?
No. Well, so call range, there's no OB at the hospital I work at, so call range is like 45 minutes, like a loose 45 minutes.
Mhm.
So they'll call me in the ER to do like a central line or a nerve block for somebody who broke their hip, or they don't call me for intubations because usually by the time it reaches that point, like 45 minutes is too
Too
late.
long. Yeah.
I don't get called for those. If I'm like if I'm doing surgeries in the hospital, like and they catch me in between cases or something, they're like, "Hey, like we need your help, quick, come over," or whatever. Um, I don't want to downplay ER physicians, and we actually have some nurse practitioners that cover the hospital, the ER,
Mhm.
independently. They're not that great at intubating.
Oh, yeah, yeah, you don't yeah.
But they're great. They're great at a lot of stuff. But man, for some reason, intubating, they just make it look really difficult, and it's not that hard.
Jam it down their throat, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Um, so you said you're originally from Tennessee. What
kind of.
right? Kind of?
I went to college in Tennessee.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how did you end up in Wisconsin?
So I lived in Wisconsin since I was like 11. My dad came up
Okay.
here. Actually, he was doing locums up in Rhinelander, Wisconsin, just a small, tiny town, whatever. Um, and kind of settled in. I think he was locums for a while, and then he took a full-time job here in Wisconsin. And then, I mean, it just became my home. And
Oh,
that,
nice. So that's where I'm mistaken. It like I didn't know that you were from there. I was like, how did you convince someone to move to Wisconsin?
my wife's from Chicago, so it's not like that far.
Okay.
She was okay with winters. Plus,
Mhm.
Wisconsin, back when I was finishing school, was one of the highest paying states, and that always helps. I was like, "But you can spend this much money," and she's like, "Oh, okay, let's go."
Money goes further here.
That's right.
So
So,
let's jump into your podcast,
okay,
Investing RN. How did that start?
that started. Man, I don't know, a lot of talk and then finally some action, I guess. So me and my
Mhm.
brother-in-law, we started buying real estate, and my sister. She'll be mad if I don't include her. We started buying real estate back in 2020. I don't know if anybody's heard of Bigger Pockets podcast. It's
Of course.
extremely popular. So I was turned on to that podcast and I started binging. And I mean, as a CRNA, you make great money. It's a very healthy lifestyle, but I was like, it's so easy to spend it because it comes in
Oh
so
yeah.
easy. So that was like back in 2019 was probably the first time I was introduced into the concept of like building wealth and like actually accumulating assets. And so after a lot of talk, me and my brother-in-law, neither one of us had a ton of cash sitting around, but we finally were like, honestly, like if we put our money together, we can buy something.
Mhm.
So back in 2020, we bought something. Um, and like the natural progression was like a tiny single family, and then we bought, a small multifamily, and then we bought a larger small multifamily still, but and then we bought a mobile home park in 2022, and that was the best one. So now that's all we're doing is we're buying mobile home parks. We own 3 right now, and knock on wood, we're closing on 2 more in the next couple months.
Damn, they jumped on that Brendan Turner train with the mobile home parks.
That's it. It's oh my goodness, like they're great. They're great in so many different ways.
Okay, since I own 2 real estate properties in Ohio, where are yours at? Or you
So
don't want to say,
the
so
3 we
people
own are
don't
in the
go into your
no,
go
that's
into your
fine.
market.
That's fine. Sorry, I kind of bypassed investing RN. It was like a
No,
5-minute story
we could
that I
go
was
into
dragging out.
that.
Okay. Um, what was it? Oh, yeah. So we own 3 right now. They're all in Wisconsin. I live in Green Bay. Go Packers. No, but I live in Green Bay. And the furthest one away from where I live is about an hour and a half. So one's about an hour south, one's about an hour west, and one's about an hour and a half north. We have one under contract up in the Upper Peninsula, Michigan,
Mhm.
and then we have one in Nebraska.
Oh, dang.
And the reason we're comfortable doing that is because my brother-in-law, he lives in California, and he's been managing all of these. So the original thought was like he's going to manage from California. Well, and I funded the first few deals, so it was we kind of fell
Like
into that
that
split or
kinda
whatever.
deal.
Yeah. So then we own 3 in Wisconsin. He was managing from California with the thought that if I ever needed like an emergency, I can always go to the properties, take a look around,
Mhm.
do stuff. But like we owned these properties for a couple years, and I think I went out there once. So I mean, in reality, we were thinking like, well, doing what we're currently doing, we can buy anywhere in the U.S. Like it doesn't have to be Wisconsin.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, w even though he's far away, what other than, like, the deal structure that if you're
Mm.
funding, he'll manage, how come, like, you guys didn't go forward with, like, a property manager because you just didn't wanna split the commission, not the commission, the rent, like, the 10%? You didn't wanna split that up, that 10%?
Pretty much, yeah. And we're buying these, so we're buying a lot of them like kind of creatively. Like it's
Mhm.
kind of like a hot topic these days. But we're actually kind of doing it. Like sometimes it works really well, and so we're buying them like highly leveraged, like up to 100% leverage sometimes.
Like, seller finance?
Like a mix, like there's some of these small banks and credit unions that will get super creative with you. So we're actually using banks
Mm.
and seller finance and like we're kind of mixing bank with other type of financing to 100% leverage them. So the cash flow is not like great. It's positive, which is one of the requirements before we buy it. It's
Okay.
positive, but it's not like amazing. Um, where was I going with that? I don't remember.
I asked,
Oh, property
property
management.
management.
Yeah, so some of them wouldn't allow for another 10% cost, based
Mm.
on the gross rents. But we do have one where we do have a property manager. It was more like us just kind of testing it to see like how does this work. It was one of our smaller properties. And then man, they have so it's 10% based on the
Yeah.
gross rent. They charge 10%, but then they charge like all kinds of fees, like tons of fees. So
Mm.
it's very expensive. And my sister, she's been building out this like property management company like along with us. And she's like, honestly, like, let me just handle it. Like it's not 10% plus like all the costs that we're incurring from this property management company. It's not worth it. Like, let me just keep it in
That
house.
that's funny that you not even funny that you brought up, but it's doo-doo that you brought it up because I originally had a property manager for my properties in Ohio because obviously I'm in New York, I can't be there, and so I hired this property management company. That was actually, like, my one of my first properties. I bought it off, the partners of Bigger Pockets. What company was it? It's one of those ones you hear on the podcast, and they do, like, turnkey homes for you.
Okay.
And so I bought it off them, and then with the deal, they automatically provide you a property management company. And then over the year, it was okay because obviously I don't know any better. But the more I got into listening to the podcast, the more I got into trying to find like a second property or a third property at the time. I started like asking more questions to the property manager, being like, when something happens, give me three bids so I could choose the best one for me, and so I could also vet them out myself, and then the leasing agreements, everything like that. And then the more I started doing that, um, the more shady I saw this property management company. Instead of sending me 3 bids, they're sending me 1 and it's the highest bid, or whatever they're charging this lovely lady that I actually talked to on the phone for rent. They charged her 5 months upfront rent just so she could stay in the house because her credit score was low. I'm like, and she was like and they were charging them like $100 more than the market value at the time. And obviously,
Oh, mm,
this lady wasn't fitting the criteria, but they made it fit by pretty much extorting money from her. So like, and then there's all these other fees. Oh, since we got called at like 2 or 3 a.m., we're going to charge you a little fee here for picking up that phone call. And then I was like, wait, your whole job is managing my properties. But then luckily when I bought my other houses, I fired this guy, this whole company. And then my realtor out there said she could do it. And she's been phenomenal. Only
oh,
charges
nice.
the 10% of rent. And that's it. She deals with everything. She has like the Rolodex of everyone she needs to call. She was like, and I even asked her, I was like, oh, when she texted me like late at one night, what do you want to do with this? I was like, oh, pretty much I was like so tired. Just do what you think is right. And then tell me how much it is. She's like, oh, don't even worry about it. The 10% covers it. And then I was like, $100 out of like $1,000 rents covers everything. I was like, wow, you're a
Okay.
godsend compared to the thousands of dollars I threw down the drain to these other companies. But yeah,
Yeah, that's
sorry, that
crazy.
was a big rant because
No, that's
I
all
I
right.
hated it. I was
I'm
so
with you on
pissed.
that. And I mean, there's not a lot of great property management companies. So
Mm-mm.
I think as soon as somebody's like relatively good, a ton of word of mouth happens and everybody goes flocking to them, and then they
Mhm.
can't handle it and then become another one of the bad, not
Yeah,
great companies.
yeah, because then they'll like delegate it out to someone else that isn't as good, and then you're just not getting the same service.
Yeah.
So for the real estate, because I like geeking out on this too, because
Yeah.
I've always wanted to get into multifamily. What
Yeah.
obviously you guys got, I'm guessing 3 incomes that you could throw at multifamily.
So my sister and brother-in-law, they're both nurses also.
Mhm.
But they are not in the hospital right now. And I think my sister's probably going back because they're moving and they want to buy a house and they need some W-2 income to qualify for a
Mhm. Yeah,
loan.
yeah.
Um, but they've been out of nursing for 2 years. It's
Oh
been
shit.
just me on the
I'll have to get them on here too. I need to find out how they did that.
yeah. All right. I
So just you providing the income to buy these places.
yeah. Yeah.
And
And
obviously well, it's not W-2, but your income is high enough that people are probably like banks are probably like all wide-eyed when they see that.
they're very comfortable lending to us. And I think that that's part of the reason they're willing to be creative. It's
Mhm.
also because they're a small bank and they don't have in-house rules that they just have to follow to the T. Like
Mhm.
they can be
They could
creative and they can see, and they're also local to like some of the properties that we own. So they know this property. They're like, oh, we know it's a good, well-performing asset.
nice. So since you're doing it, well, I guess that was a question. Like, how are you funding it? But you said it's all of it. Like a lot of it is like super
Yeah.
creative.
Well, and we have like 8 deals now, and I don't think we've funded any of them the same way. So we've done it like several different ways. And I'm happy to go through some of them, but it
Yeah,
would take a
for
little bit of
sure.
time. But I mean, I
I
can
don't
talk
care,
through 2
man.
of them.
We got time
All
because
right.
like I love
Here we
hearing
go.
how people build their deals because even though my wife is on board with my real estate investing, uh, she even knows it's like she doesn't want to know the deal specifics. She just wants to know, is it cash flow positive and where do I sign? so,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so it's just me providing the income and doing the deal analysis. So obviously you have 3 people that help with that. And
Mhm.
then the creating the deal is probably where I probably lack some of the substance to make it even better for like for creativity and not using as much as my own cash to do it.
Yeah. Well, so we had to use our own cash for the first deal,
Mhm.
and then we did a burr. Those were super popular
Nice.
back in the day. I mean, they still work, but they're not as popular today.
Mhm.
So we bought a house for $35,000 in a tiny town in Wisconsin, fixed it up. We put about $20,000 into it, so we were $55,000 all in. And then we
Mhm.
went to refinance. It appraised for 80,000, so we got $60,000
Nice.
back. That's all of our money. We got it
That's
back.
all your money and 10 grand on top.
And five grand, yeah.
Oh, 5 grand, yeah.
We had a few expenses like right after we closed, so it was like less than 5,000, but it was still more than we had into the deal. And that was back in 2020, and that was like light bulb moment. I was like, man, like they're not full of it.
Free money.
Like this actually works. So we did it again. And I own my own house. So I got a HELOC on it. I used that to fund the next lump. We bought a portfolio of 3 small multifamily. Granted, this is in another small town in Wisconsin, so we were able to buy 11 doors for 275 grand.
Nice.
I know you probably can't do that in New York, but
No, you can't. You definitely can't. Not at all.
But then we ended up kind of similar. Like we had planned on like burying those, but we ended up selling them. They were old houses. There was a lot of headaches, and so we sold them, made a pretty good profit. And from the profits of that, we 1031 exchanged it into one of our mobile home parks.
Oh, wow.
So I think I mentioned we use our HELOC. I got all that back after fixing the first one. And then the next two, well, one of them was a break even. And then the next one, we used the profits to roll into the next property. So at this point, we have like no money in any of the deals. And then we bought one of our mobile home parks for 600 grand. And the seller was like, we just asked, and it was something that you'll never know unless you ask. I was like, hey, will you hold on to 20% of the note? And he's like, why? And we explained to him why, like, so we don't have to put any money in the deal. And he's like, okay, that makes sense. Like a lot of these guys, they're business minded, so they understand things. And he's like, yeah, I can do that. So
and then, so is it a balloon payment at the end for that 20%?
Yeah, so it's a 3-year balloon payment. This particular property, like we knew we'd be able to increase the value enough to refinance him out. Like rents were below where they needed to be. It's on a lake in Wisconsin, so like
nice.
It's a great property. So his balloon payment is 3 years. Our most commercial loans, they're 5-year balloons. So we got 80% from the bank and 20% from the seller. Not all banks will recognize that 20% as like your down like your skin of the game or whatever, but I called around, found a bank that would, and they have the loan now.
A lot of stuff. I love it.
Yes.
So, okay, I have a HELOC on my house. I've always been, and it's like 150K that they allowed me to take out because I did it right when COVID happened and didn't have to do anything to the house to bring up the value just because COVID did its thing and made it appraised for like $200,000 more than what I bought it. So they gave me like 150K HELOC. So I want to put that into a rental property. But every time I listen to Bigger Pockets or anything like that, like if obviously you could take the money, you could use it for the down payment or buy a house out fully. But with a HELOC, just because interest rates could vary and it could sink you too, is it just a short-term use kind of thing? Like is your goal when you use the HELOC, pay it back within a year kind of thing?
Honestly, like when I used it, I was just so it was right after our first burr worked really well. I was just so excited to buy something new. I didn't think about any of that. I was just like, dang. I have the money. I'm going to use it because this works. I probably should have thought it through way more, but
no, look, obviously it worked out for you, and it's got you to where you are. So like, that's awesome. So I guess my problem is now finding a good construction company to do a rehab but the numbers have to fit and all that because that's how you get your money back out so you can pay back the HELOC. But so how did you find that construction company?
So the guy that did our first house, he was great. Well, I say great. He was good for the first house. We used him again on a second house. Not good at
Shoddy.
all.
Like just wasn't.
And like his work was fine and he worked fast, but he just never showed up to actually do anything. Part of that was my problem because I think I paid him like I didn't. Yeah, I paid a lot up front, and so that was a huge problem. But like he had a bunch of excuses in 2020, which made sense because like
COVID and all that.
COVID, like you had a lot of reasons to not show up to work. But like in 2021 and 2022, when he was fixing this other house, I don't know, can't use the same excuses that were used in 2020.
Yeah.
That's been a pain point for us also. And that's another big reason why we're in the mobile home park space now. Because for a lot of, so there's two different types of like mobile home parks, like where the owner of the park owns all of the homes and rents them out at like a higher price, or you can buy these parks where the tenants, they actually own their homes and they're just kind of renting like access to the utilities basically.
Mhm.
So our favorite one, or the one that we have, all three of it, like I think we own like one home, but for the most part, all of our parks, they're all tenant owned. So if something happens inside of their house, then we're not responsible to take care of it. They take care of it themselves. So
That
there's
sounds like a cheat code.
not a ton of rehab costs for us. Construction companies are kind of like out the door now. We don't really use them.
Okay. I like that. So the land is what you own, and I guess all the utilities that come along with it, the house or the mobile home that they put on it is theirs.
Mhm.
So you bought this pretty much without any of your own money. How do you add value?
So you can do it by different ways. Like some of the older ones, so a lot of them were built like in the 60s and 70s, and like a lot of them still have the same owner, and the owners are super
Mhm.
old and they just don't care anymore. They haven't raised rents with inflation for like 20 years. They've let the trees just kind of overgrow. Like older equipment, like, so like we have a well and a septic on one of them. Just
Mhm.
like replacing, so the well was like spitting out like not bad water, but it wasn't like great water either.
Was it like Detroit water? Like
Yeah. No, not that. Maybe actually, I didn't taste the water. I don't know. It could have been coming straight from the lake that was right down the road.
Uh,
So what we did on that park was like we had to fix the well, trimmed back a ton of the trees. And what was the other thing that? Oh, and we kind of brought rents up to where where everybody else was in the area.
so that's the trading ship that you could show to the bank, is that you brought up the rents to, I guess, a better
To,
spot,
to
just to be
market,
like
yeah.
to market rate, and then be like, "Oh, can we refinance out of it?" kind of thing,
Mhm.
and get the not just pouring blacktop on the new on the new land.
No, that's it. Yeah,
That's amazing. Like, the more I'm thinking about it, that doesn't sound, 'cause it
it's kind
sounds
of
like
a
you
cheat
don't,
code. Yeah.
yeah, it sounds like you don't need, like, the construction people, you more just need a lot
No.
of people that just have the permits to cut trees and
Yeah.
water utility people just to help you out, and that's
Mhm.
way easier to deal with than a
Yeah.
contractor.
And so I have a cousin who buys mobile home parks, and he was trying to get us to look into the space for a long time, and I was like, honestly, like, no, that doesn't sound like an amazing asset. Like, I wouldn't be proud to own one of those, basically. But
Because
like,
when I
there's
hear a
some,
mobile home park, I think about, like, trailer parks and
yeah. Well, and there's a bunch of TV shows that kind of downplay them, but
yeah.
honestly, there's some really nice ones where you can like look in blacktop streets. Like you look at the home and you can't really even tell that it's like a manufactured house. Like it looks like it's stick built. There's some really nice ones out there.
Dang, you're
Granite
making me
countertops in some of
gonna
them.
call
I mean,
my
honestly.
realtor right after we get off this to be like, "Hey, you got mobile home parks out there in Ohio that I could."
Oh, there's tons of them. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
dang, like, you're like, my brain has been shut off to real estate for a little bit, and this is, like, really getting me excited for it again, because I just have, like, 2 single family homes, and it's very boring. They cash flow, but it's also, like, I know this isn't gonna get me rich, but
Yeah.
it's, like, the way I'm looking at it before, when I first started in 2022 is when I bought my first one, I was like, "I know this won't get me rich, but if I keep this long enough, this is my, kids' college fund." Kinda
Mhm.
thing. Like, even though, like, I contribute to their, I guess here it's called the 529, like, the college, um, investing for, so they could take it out to use for school, like, that's what we have here in New York. So, like, I already have that for their college, but then since I have 2 rental properties, I have 2 kids, I was like, "This could fund their colleges." So it's like, that's all I thought of it as, but now thinking on how you're probably cash flowing pretty well on however many units you have,
Mhm.
like
It's
the
not
wealth.
amazing. I'll throw that out there because we're buying them highly leveraged, so the cash
Mhm.
flow is not like amazing. It hasn't come close to replacing my hospital salary yet. I mean, someday it will, but we're not there yet.
Is your since you said you have a HELOC, is your house almost paid off?
No. So we moved. So this one's not.
Because
The
that's
other
what I was thinking. So I know I'm like taking over my own thing here, but like
This is your podcast. You do whatever you want.
no, like I think about it all the time. So investing versus paying off debt. I have zero debt outside of my mortgage, right? But that is the only thing that actually keeps me at my nurse job is having enough money to be comfortable outside of the mortgage. But if the mortgage is paid off, then I could do whatever I want with the money that I have. So I don't know. I've been debating paying off my house, which I know a lot of money geeks are being like, why would you do that? Your interest rate is so low and you can do so much more with your money,
Yeah.
or use that HELOC that I have and just buy a shit ton of Midwest homes and cash flow that $200 to $400 a month, and then I could use those to pay off each other. Like, I don't know. My brain just
There's
goes into so many
That's
random
such a tough
spots.
question though, because if you're looking purely at the numbers, then you'd be crazy to pay off your house.
Mhm.
But there's a huge emotional aspect to debt and certain kinds of money, I guess.
Yes.
Because I paid off all my student loans, which to the math geeks, and that would have been a crazy
Yeah.
decision because my interest rate on those was like 2.5%.
Yeah.
But there was like a huge emotional portion that just kind of weighed me down. And now that I have it paid off, I'm like, oh man, like a huge burden's been lifted
It's
off
like,
my shoulders.
now all my paycheck goes to me?
Yeah, and that's when I bought a new house just down the road for twice as much as my first house, and like, so I don't feel like I'm making more money, but I had the opportunity to.
No, that's true. Like, I don't mean to go into like the whole debt thing, but like, do you know what velocity banking is?
I don't think so.
So it's like using a line of credit to pay down debt like 10 times faster. So for a HELOC, you're using your equity to pay off to get more equity. And then you're just paying it back over time. Since you have access to, say, $100,000 or $150,000 in my case, I could throw all $150,000 to my mortgage, and that would bring down my principal, my mortgage principal, down to $150K. But obviously, I'll still have to pay down my HELOC and the mortgage at the same time. So what you have to do is find that balance of what your income cash flow is. Say if I had extra $1,000 a month after my mortgage and expenses, I would only put in maybe 12K every year, and pay that towards my principal of my mortgage. Like, I'll do it once on January, and by January the next year, my HELOC's already paid off, and then I'll send another chunk of 12K to my principal again, and then it will expedite the amortization schedule. Like, instead of a 30-year mortgage, now it became a 7-year mortgage because you're using your equity. Yeah, because you're using your line of credit to constantly revolve in and out of your own cash flow.
I guess that confuses me because typically lines of credit the interest rates on those are not going to be as low as a mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
So
but it's the interest of a mortgage is amortized versus a daily average of a HELOC or any kind of line of credit. So technically, even if I have a 2.8% amortized, well, I can't even say that word.
A hard one.
Yeah. It's early. It is.
Yeah, my bad.
like a 2.7 interest rate that's amortized is technically could be, depending on the math, could be almost equal to like a 6% HELOC interest because of the daily accrued interest. So like the numbers actually aren't the same. Like, interest rate on a HELOC versus interest isn't the same. And as you pay down the HELOC, so if I paid 12K up front, that first month I'll pay interest on $12,000 on the HELOC. But after that first month and I had that extra $1,000 of income, I throw it towards the HELOC. Now the next month is going to get interest on 11K. So it keeps going down the scale. And then once it gets to zero, I throw it right back to 12K. and I just keep repeating the cycle. So I'm a math geek when it comes down to that stuff.
That's intense. I need to look into this.
I have like a whiteboard here where my wife was like literally on the treadmill last night. She was like, "What are you doing?" And I wish I could like turn the camera. And it's like one of those things where like I forgot what movie it is where you're just putting like numbers all over a board and be like, "Oh, it works," kind of thing like that.
Like
Like I
Big
just have
Bang
a
Theory
whole
type
bunch
stuff.
of numbers right here on a whiteboard. Be like, I could do that. Like I could pay off like a $400,000 house in 7 years if I wanted to stay disciplined and I only used like $1,000 extra a month kind of thing, which is the maths, but
The
you also have
math.
to be disciplined. Yeah, the math, dude. Like, it's wild because like I went down a rabbit hole with it, and I know I went on a huge tangent just because I got like you use the HELOC. So if I could make it work on a whiteboard here for my own primary house, what I'm thinking is I could probably buy a rental property, and because it's not going to be like a $400,000-$500,000 house, it'll probably be like a more like a $100,000-$200,000 house, and I could pay that pretty fast down if I wanted to get to a more comfortable level if I needed to make sure things cash flow the way I wanted to. I don't know. You open like a brain hole with all the real estate stuff and then the creative stuff. So I'm like trying to just figure out ways in my head.
On that's it. Like, and I don't think I even mentioned that on here yet. Is like if we hadn't bought that first property, the bank would not like they would not have been creative with us because before we bought that first property, I went to a lot of different banks and I was like, hey, like I'm looking to do something really creative, like with real estate, and they're like, no, this is what you have. Like you can have these options. But after we had like 4 or 5 properties, then they're like, okay, like you guys seem to know what you're doing. We can do that for you.
Are you going pretty much to the same small bank? So they
Pretty
know
now we
because
are.
like
Yeah, we found after we've used like 5 different banks, and now we've stumbled on one that's just
be like, oh, we know
all of their
you.
terms are better than the rest of them, and it came from a recommendation of actually somebody we bought a property from. They're like, hey, work with these guys. They're pretty cool. And they're creative. They're like, but to my point, like they wouldn't be creative unless we were already in the game and already had done stuff.
Yeah, that is huge. I guess it's not networking. Maybe it is networking.
Yeah.
The networking with the people that you do business with can definitely help you get to where you want to be. And back to the podcast kind of thing is like that's why I like doing this stuff, because now I feel like I could like hit you up every now and then. What do you
Of course.
think about random
Honestly, yeah.
random business rental stuff like this? So going back to your podcast, why did you start it?
Oh, yeah, so I think you asked me that question like 30 minutes
We
ago.
went on like a crazy tangent.
That's funny. So we started that. Wow. I know I told like the first part of that story and then like we went down so many tangents.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's why I told you when we started. There's gonna be a lot of tangents. Just let the convo flow.
We talked about doing the podcast, me and my brother-in-law, for like at least 6 months, maybe more. And it was just kind of a fun idea. Like I like hanging out with my brother-in-law a lot. So it'd be just like another excuse to hang out for an hour every week. And we kind of threw around the idea. And then finally we're like, I don't know, like I think, man, was it? So I joined a couple different mastermind groups, and like a lot of the guys in there have a podcast, and they're like, yeah, man, like media, social media, long form media, YouTube, like. And then they kind of told me how much money they were making. And I was like, oh, okay, like I'll think about it, I guess. But then finally, like we decided just to do it. I mean, we're like a ready, fire, aim type of people. And I think a lot entrepreneurs need to be that way. I think there's so much analysis paralysis, and there's great. I used to be a huge podcast junkie, and I just wouldn't. It was like maybe 2 years, which I mean, there's some element where you need to be prepared. You need to have some sort of baseline education, but I think I probably waited too long, and like I could have been a year further down the road if I had, taken action first from the start. But anyway, we started the podcast because we saw a huge need in the nursing community, really. Like, I mean, you as well. Like there's now that we've been doing our podcast for a little bit, like I see some other people doing it, like there's Elaine has her stocks podcast, and like there's There's probably more that I'm gonna not mention, and I'm sorry, but but it's great because there's no sort of there's no financial education in nursing school and hospitals, like, and the 401k, like, I think it's
It's a
trash.
scam.
It is. It's one of the worst ways, and they tell you to keep your money so you can become financially free, but, like, I wanna be financially free before I'm 59 and a half, and that's if
Well,
they don't.
62 now if they don't move it, right? Well,
Well,
I
and by
think
the
they're trying
time
to
we
do
get
62
there,
or
who knows? It
65.
might be 70. Like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't know. Like, but it's regulated by the government, and I don't trust anything that they say they're gonna do. I don't know.
And that's funny
Am
that
I
you brought that
wrong
up.
in doing that?
No, no, not at all, because, even talking with my accountant, like, I told her I didn't contribute to my we have a 403(b), so we don't even get a match, but, I talked to my accountant about this, and I also, like, talked about with, like, some of my more financially literate nurses in where I work. They're like, "Yeah, we contribute to our 403(b) because it gives you the tax write-off." And I'm like, "You know what's a bigger tax write-off? Real estate. You know what's a bigger tax write-off? A business, a LLC." I was like,
Mhm.
"You'll get way more than your 401k tax write-off of 22K, which only actually equates to like it's like $1,000 per $5,000. So it's like it it's not the math doesn't math enough for me to
Yeah. That's
consistently max that out if I had to. Like right now, I'm only contributing a 1% just to keep the account alive kind of thing, just so I don't have to like go back somewhere and being like, "Oh, can you turn on my investing again if I needed it?" Like 1%, which is like less than a grand a year because I feel like I could do a lot more with my money than first whatever bullshit company that the hospital decided to partner up with
yeah.
that has you in the worst funds with the craziest expense ratios. So,
I got the
yeah.
same thoughts on, like, financial advisors too. Like, I used to work with, I mean, I'm not trying to trash
No.
financial advisors. I know a lot of good ones, but the ones
Mhm.
I've worked with, they're like, "Oh, yeah, we'll charge you 1% of the money you make." Like, if you lose money, we lose money. If you make money, we make money. But then like, back in 2020 when the market crashed, I still saw, like, a $500 fee taken out, and it was at that point where I'm not offering financial advice by any means, but I cashed out all my retirement accounts. I closed them. I was like, this is not for me."
This
And it
is
was,
dookie.
and part of it was because we had just done our first, rental property that went really well, so I was, like, super high on it. I was like, "Oh, I don't need this trash. I'm gonna buy properties and live off the land."
No, no, that's true because I like how you went into that because um there's a lot of I know we're going on an hour. I know you got to get out of here soon, but
Yeah.
the financial advisor area, right? Like you said, there are really good ones that could steer you in the right direction. And I've met a lot of good ones and I met even more worse ones. Like I've been to a lot of like meetings with some of these people for like financial advisory and they're like, "Oh, I see how much you got in your bank account. Let's talk about how we could invest that better." So I'd entertain the talk and then I would ask them questions myself. Why wouldn't you do this? Why wouldn't you do that? And if they couldn't give me an answer, I'm like, "You're trash." Like
Yeah.
I was like, and not to be like conceited or cocky, I was like, I'd ask them, "Do you have more than me in your bank account to give me an advisor to be my advisor?" And if a lot of them said no, I was like, "Then you shouldn't be advising me."
That's a
kind of
really
thing.
good point. Nobody's ever brought that up in conversation. That's a good point.
And then yeah, so it's such a touchy subject because obviously I want to eventually maybe financially coach people on certain things
Mhm.
because I see so many people, which I hope you could chime in a little bit. I see so many, I man, because I also want some of these people on my podcast, but I also don't want to call them out. Um, fuck. How do I do this? Um, no, fuck it. I like to be real. I see a lot of nurses on Instagram saying that they retired in 2, 3, 4 years. They're like 20 something years old and they're saying they're financially independent. And how? How have you done it when there's someone like you still working 260K a year? Me, I've been a nurse for 12 years. I've been making over 120, 130 for all these years, right? And that's not even including business rental properties, every and my investing. how are you retired giving coaching? They can't say advice, but coaching for how did you get the money? How did you figure it out? Like, I have like a big vendetta against it because I don't want to be a hater, but I'm hating.
Yeah. I think I have the same thoughts, and I'm also not gonna say too much because we've already had some on our podcast, and they're great people. I guess I will say to their defense, I'm gonna defend them against you. No, I'm just kidding.
No, no, do it, do it,
But
do it. I love the devil advocate stuff.
a lot of people are just so clueless. It doesn't take a lot of knowledge to help people that have no idea.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that these people are like just not great, like because I don't know. I also think there's a lot of lying on social media, like
Mhm.
or elaborating into like you only see the good stuff, you never see the bad
The
stuff.
highlight
I'm
reel.
guilty
Yeah.
of that too. Like I'm not like I have a lot of challenges, but I'm not putting that on Instagram. You kidding me? But but it's like you gotta if somebody sorry, I just botched that. Somebody 2 steps behind you. I can help somebody 2 step I'm trying to be, like, super intelligent with this, but then
Hey,
I'm messing
no,
it
you're
up.
no, I think I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, you can help somebody 2 steps behind you more than you can help no, something like that, you know, it's
I think
still
you're
early.
think what you could help someone 2 steps behind you to get to where you are today because you'll still be 2 steps ahead of them because you're also educating yourself at the same time.
Yeah,
Like, I
there
think
you go. And
that's
then
like
and I think as long as you're not claiming to know everything, like, you can help people that are just 1 or 2 steps behind you, and you can probably help them more than somebody who's 10 steps ahead of them because you're a little bit more close to their level.
I could
There
agree. I could agree
finally
with you.
got
Okay.
it.
I liked it. I could agree. There are a lot of obviously what we talked about before, financial literacy in the medical field, especially nursing, not there. So just teaching people the basics for coaching could get you money.
Yeah,
Like, but out of everyone that I've seen like maybe like 2 or 3 people, I'm probably missing a lot of people that are in like that basic coaching level that actually in my opinion, are giving like really great information. There's like that one PA/NP couple that does amazing content that is very high end for their coaching, which I think everything they're doing is correct. But then I see other people that I can't say the same. And that like kind of irks me because maybe it's a jealousy thing. Like I could have did a money grab too, and I could have taught that since I started investing. But also like what we also talked about as well, a lot of these people teach retire by 60. That's like the main thing. Be a millionaire at 60. And I'm not technically down with that because I want to be done by 40, like kind of thing
for
like that.
sure.
So
And,
it's
like,
like,
if you're okay, like, waiting till you're 60, it's not hard to be a millionaire. Like,
yeah,
you go buy a $500,000 house, and then in 30 years, it's worth $1,000,000 and it's paid off. Like,
yep.
it's really simple.
And then you go through the motions of contributing to your 401k, 403b, and your Roth IRA. And in 30 years, if they're not a million, you messed up. Like
Yeah, big time.
you did something wrong.
You hired a
So like
financial advisor. No, I'm just kidding.
or that's the thing too. It's like, bro, I just literally those 2 minutes right there. I just did your $10,000 coaching.
Yeah.
like, like, man, I'm a hater, dude. I'm such a
Uh,
hater.
you sound like one of my best friends who lives in Chicago. He's always talking about, like, these people they charge so much money and their information is trash, and I always play devil's advocate. Even if I agree with him, I always like to, play the other side because controversy is fun sometimes.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But, like, I don't know if, like I believe that the marketplace will tell you if your stuff is good or not. Like,
Mhm,
if their money grab is not worth it, people will stop buying it and it'll go away at some point. But
mhm.
if it's good enough to keep people coming
People coming
back,
in.
then good for them. It's not for me to say whether it's trash or not.
Damn, you're right.
So, to that point, just go do something, and if
No,
it's good enough, people will keep coming back.
no, that's what I want to teach. Like you messaged me one time. We'll finish this up soon. You messaged me one time like how can you make the extra money? And that's what I'm going to make a course on. Covered calls, cash your puts, little bit of very low risk option plays that could make you a lot of money depending on how much money you're depending on the skin in the game. Same thing with real estate. You need skin in the game to make money.
Yeah,
So I can
and
do that.
you can make money doing Almost anything. It's just if you're consistent and you do the same thing, like
And
real
yeah,
estate, even real estate, there's so many different ways to make money in real estate, but pick one and stick to it. You'll get better and better at it, and then you'll become the expert, and then you can make money in anything pretty much.
dang. You know what? I really like talking to you, man. I know you have a busy day ahead of you. If anyone wanted to reach out to you, how could they reach out to you?
I'm probably not probably. I'm way more active on Instagram than any other platform. So DM me on Instagram at the lifestyle CRNA. That's my personal page. But we have our podcast page where we put more financial tips and like clips from our podcast and stuff like that. That's the it's investing RN pod. I had to think about that. But either one of those, I'm active on both of them. Just DM, send us a question.
Mhm.
I'm happy to help if I
And
can. I
is
don't
your
claim to know everything either. Like I'm learning as I'm going along as well. But
and is your podcast on just Spotify or is it
it's everywhere. Spotify, Apple. It's on YouTube also if you want to see our faces.
I'll link it all in the description down below. And Josh, I really appreciate you just chopping it up with me and
Yeah,
going on a million tangents. This was a lot of fun.
it's been a blast. Yeah. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. This has been
Of
great.
course, man.